That was a small romantic comedy. On that note, I'd like to invite Arthur Cooper and Mikael Salomon to say a few words of wisdom. Thank you.
Wow. Is this on? You hear me?
Talk to him, bud.
Wow, that was very impressive. It's been I think it's probably been about 25 years since I've seen that on a big screen. So congratulations. I'd be curious what was your first thought on seeing this? I guess it's been a while for you too to see it again.
Well, I keep thinking that what a bitch it was. But once you get past that, so it's an experience I wouldn't have been without. It was a fantastic experience, but I still remember on the very last day of the show, we all said we'll never do a sequel to this, and Jim was the one who agreed the most. I think it was tough in many ways, but it was also fun.
I'm sure that's pretty much a once in a lifetime experience, I would say.
I hope so.
Yeah, we can only hope. I'm sure everybody wants to leap right in, but I sort of wanted to sort of backtrack a little bit and find out sort of a little bit about you, sort of bring us up to this stage. So I want to sort of touch base a bit about sort of your background, like I'm trying to sort of get you here to this sort of
Okay, I'll make it very, very short. I was born and grew up in Denmark, and I had a career there as a cameraman, a cinematographer. Something I always wanted to do from school. I was a projectionist, actually, when I was in school, and I think I projected South Pacific 800 times in 70 millimeter, but I decided I need to do that. I was so impressed with 70 millimeter at the time. As you probably know, this was not shot in 70 millimeter. It was shot in Super 35 and then blown up to 70. And one of the reasons that Jim wanted to do that was to get the 6-track soundtrack, a magnetic soundtrack, which wasn't possible before. That was the only way you could do it. You shot in, if you originate in 65, you would shoot 65 and then print on 70, and then you had those 5 millimeters extra for the 6 tracks. But in this case, we had to shoot with spherical lenses. You're all in the business, so I think I can use that language.
I think we want to
right?
get a little technical here. I think there's lots of people in here that want to know.
Well, the problem was, Jim, when I did a lot of movies in Denmark, and I got an offer to come over and do a show for an American director I worked for before in Europe, and he became a producer. He said, "Come on over. I want you to meet Danny Mann. He's doing a show, a movie," and I pretty much always shot for the cinema. I said, so it's a movie? Yeah, it's a movie. And I come over there and met Danny Mann. I got the job, flew back to Denmark, finished up what I was doing, and came back and did the show for a small company called Home Box Office. And that was...
They've done all right.
That was the first time I worked for HBO, and I had no idea they were TV at the time. Nobody knew them. But that led to me being picked up by a great cinematographer agent, a DP agent by the name of Spiros Skouras. I had never been represented by anybody before, because that's not what you did in Europe. Your friend, the director, called and said, "You want to do my show?" That was pretty much it. But I say, "Yeah, you can represent me, that's fine." And I didn't expect much to come of it. I got a little small movie with Virginia in Williamsburg. It was called Celia and Me, and it was Brian De Palma's girlfriend that directed it. I had worked a lot with female directors in Denmark, so that might have been part of it. But that show was like a $3 million movie, and I got a call from Fox. My agent got a call from Fox and said, they want you to come over and read a script. I said, "Can't they just send it to me?" No, they won't let it out. You have to read it at Fox. So I go to Fox and I read this script. I said, "Oh my God, I've never read anything like it. That was The Abyss." And now I called him and said, "I finished, it's great. What now? Should I go home?" No, come meet Jim Cameron. At that time, Jim was just a 400-pound gorilla, not an 800-pound gorilla like now. But so it was slightly. So I met with him. We hit it off, and he said, "You want the job?" Yeah, of course I want the job. This is amazing. I don't know how you're going to pull it off, but it's amazing.
Well, I'm very curious about that first meeting where you walk in the room and you see.
Yeah, you know, we just chatted really. I just wanted to. I think he wanted to see if we could even talk to each other, because I went from a foreign country. Maybe my English was bad. Who knows? It was bad probably, but at that time it was. My agent said, the stranger your name is, the better.
Like
so okay. And later on, I did ask Jim, so what made you hire me in the first place? At the time when we had worked together for a while, and he said, I saw that little movie you did, and I really liked the lighting.
So, which one was that?
That was Taddei and Me. Yeah. And I have to take my hat up for him for that, because if he could extract, I said, you know, I have no underwater experience. Oh, you don't need that. You're never going to get in the water. Okay, so I was supposed to be the underwater lighting director above the water. So that lasted about 20 minutes once we started shooting. Al Giddings, who was the underwater cameraman, a brilliant guy and technically really, really good. He didn't have pretty much any experience lighting. And we had to do dramatic lighting underwater. And of course, he wasn't up for it. And Jim looked at me and said, you were supposed to do it from the monitors. We had these old black and white small ones.
I was going to ask about back then, the video assists, as I recall, were pretty crappy.
It was horrible. Yeah. It was pretty bad. But I said, you can't go in the water, you're not certified. I said, I got certified despite what you said. So I'm certified now, I can jump in. I did the same day, and I made all the mistakes you can possibly make. I would go through 3 tanks of air with the divers, the professionals. They would go through 1, and I would kick people's masks off, and I was really a danger. But then after a while, I got used to it, and by the way, got in the best shape of my life. I was swimming, and if you have done any kind of underwater work, you'll know that if you're in one camera position, you look over there and say, okay, that light should be turned a little bit to the left. I had to do it myself, because before you get that scribbled down on a slate, there's no time for that. So I swim over there. Now you look back towards where the camera was, and everything looks different, because of the refraction in the water and the refraction between the air in the mask and the water changes everything. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to turn it that way. So I back to the camera position, back again to do what I thought I should have done over there. So there was a lot of that in the beginning.
Wow. It's hard to imagine that sort of trial and error kind of process at that point. And then, of course, the idea is that all of this equipment was totally untested. I mean, half of it was created for this movie. Like, can you talk a little bit about even the lighting package? And I mean, I know you brought your underwater meter with you.
Yeah, I did bring the meter with me just to show how primitive everything was. That was, I have it, I'll show it to you. Oh, there it is. All right, see, this is just an ordinary, thank you, sir. An ordinary spectra that was put in this, and then there was a weight in. Of course, in the beginning, I got without the weight, it went right up to the surface. So there was a learning process, but it's a dear old friend. I'm not going to let him go.
No, I can imagine. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it was a Canadian company that designed some of the lights. Is that correct?
What was it called? Something?
I think it might have been Can Dive.
Can Dive. Thank you. There was a lot of companies involved in it. It was obviously complicated, and especially because none of this had been done before. So we had a lot of literally downtime underwater, and I learned to eat underwater, read underwater, sleep underwater.
I'm curious how you eat underwater.
You can eat apples. It's easy. Yeah, you take your regulator out, which you do all the time, and then you take a bite, and you chew it, and you put your regulator back in again.
That's amazing. Wow, learned something new.
We never surfaced to change our tanks. We got tanks down because it took too long getting out of the water also and changing. So we just got tanks down. And
right, yeah, I think I saw something in the making of. If anybody wants to Google it, you can just Google behind the scenes The Abyss, and you'll find. I think it's like a 6-part. At least that's how they split it up into 6 parts, and you can watch this insane making of this. But it said something what they had like a refill station underwater, I think. Or something.
Yeah, but we also had oxygen bubble where you could go in underwater and take your mask off and breathe pure oxygen. But we never used it. And Jim says, you can't use it because you're a smoker. You're just going to blow us all out. So, yeah, it was such a learning process. We were sometimes in the water 16 hours for a day. We would surface to have lunch, and that was about it. And towards the end of the shoot, which was in December of that year, when we surfaced, it was so cold. It was in Charleston that immediately we surfaced, your hair would freeze. Boom. And it was wet, of course. So just getting out of your wetsuit to go have lunch, I'd much rather not have lunch, just stay in the water, which was heated to a degree at least.
Right. And I think, yeah, I saw there's some, again, some video of you guys all sitting in hot tubs.
Yeah.
Sort of planning out shots.
I mean, the thing is, the water was heated, but if you stay in water, if it's not the perfect temperature, then you will get cold eventually, no matter how thick your dive suit is. Actually, people came from Johns Hopkins to study us because even professional divers, they would go down for an hour maybe and fix something on an oil rig and weld something, come back up again. We were literally down for 14, 16 hours sometimes.
Wow.
Including decompressing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I guess so even lunch was probably, must have to be like a couple hours because you'd have to stop on the way up to decompress.
That's why I was, many times, as I told you earlier, I would set up the A camera, and while they were shooting that scene, I would take the B camera, go find another angle, usually from below or somewhere else. So I spent more time below and further down than most, which meant anybody who knows anything about diving would have to decompress for much longer.
Yeah, the deeper.
But most of the time, Jim was there with me, and he was the only one who could speak to us, by the way. He was in a real diving helmet, which was a problem for him because he was tethered. I was in regular scuba, so every time I wanted something done, I would have swim up to him, scribble it on a slate, and he would announce it over the loudspeakers. We had way too good loudspeakers in the water because we heard his regulator constantly for 9 months.
Wow. Yeah, I think there's an amazing bit in the making of as well, just them editing out the regulator sound from all of the soundtracks
all the time. And I was at a cine equipment show a couple of years ago, and suddenly behind me I heard tick, 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 tick. That was my camera and his brother. That guy, he's the guy that had the crabs swimming out of his mouth. That's Jim's brother. He came up and I went, it was like a bad third Jim again. Hear that?
Well, I was actually wondering about that because I was thinking, like, when I saw that crab thing, I was sort of thinking, is that a real person or is that like a dummy that's really good?
No, they were all real, all those guys.
Wow, that's...
Yeah, and there was this, you can imagine logistics of this, because, we say, okay, you can count over the speakers. On one, you hold your breath, and that you can let it go on 4. On 2, you hold your breath. You can let it go on 5 as you pan across, because they couldn't be breathing, and we couldn't take bubbles out. There was no wire removal, bubble removal, nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a challenge with the lights. Also, all the lights had to be in backpacks.
So again, you were mentioning there was something about fiber optics. So whenever there's these lights in the helmet, there's a battery pack, and the light is actually in the backpack?
No, those are real lights that were they were real quartz lights, I think.
Okay.
Not halogen lights.
Right.
Those were permanent. Then we cut a little hole, which you probably noticed, to put some lights on the faces. Completely unrealistic. But as I said to Jim, you want to see their faces or not? Okay, this is what we have to do. I say, okay, I see.
I think I've seen it in some other movies too, so it seems to me they've followed your lead.
But Ed's suit, when he goes down, that was actually fiber optics, where he had a battery and a fiber optic distribution in his backpack, and then we ran the fiber optics and those small things there that looks like LEDs. I mean, a kingdom for LEDs in those days. That would have been fantastic. Yeah. Those were the only ways to, and no cable. It had to be battery because we couldn't take the cable out. I mean, there wasn't even a thought that you could remove wires later on. That was. Now you look back, oh my God! Had we done it today, it would have been a lot easier.
Oh, I'm sure. Although I'd be curious. It depends on who directed it, though. I guess.
I'm sure.
Directed it. I'm sure he'd still find ways to push you to the edge.
No, but just the fact that you only had 4 or 5 minutes of film in the cameras. We had to keep the cameras going, a loop of cameras, because we ran out of film all the time.
So you just swapped. So how many cameras did you have?
I think we had 6 or 8 bodies, but we also had to have different lenses on them. So I would call up and say, we need an OMAC and a 75. And then they would swim it down, and we'd keep going.
Wow, so you had a little sort of assistance workshop up on the surface, and they were just switching the mags and switching the lenses.
Yeah, and when occasionally I would come up, they would like light me a cigarette. Those were the days.
I'm exhausted. Give me a cigarette, please. Just for so many of the technical people, so I know, I saw from some of the pictures, you used Arri cameras, BLs in the housings as well?
We used BLs. A lot of it was shot on 2Cs, though. A handheld 2C with a 100-foot mag on it. And there's still a shot there that bothers me because...
Which one? Come on.
So many shots, actually. But that's a different story. Where I would run with the camera without, just pointing it with an 18mm. All those shots in the hallways of the Explorer, they're all handheld with the little motor grip on the Arri, 100-foot mag and 18mm, just closing my eyes and basically running with them. But had a little transmitter on there with an antenna. There's a shot of Elizabeth Mastrantonio where I see the shadow of the antenna. It bothers me to this day. I see that, there it is again. God.
I missed it. Just
good,
so you know.
Good.
I didn't know.
You're just saying that. You're just saying that.
I promise you, I didn't see it. Now everybody's going to go look at it the next time they watch. But
yeah, one shot that's missing, which is I was very pleased to see, because there's several different versions of the movie. Obviously, there's a shot by Ian Fox, who was my AC, my first AC, and I was operating. I was in the water with Ed and Mary Elizabeth. When the sub goes down, she drowns. And there was obviously water everywhere. We couldn't use the spinning water deflector because that would go in the water and pull the water up.
Pull it back out, right?
Yeah, and we couldn't have blow air down because that would also whip the water up. So once in a while, he would come in, I would go, no, and he would go like this on the
blade in front, yeah.
That moment is actually in one of the versions of the film. And Jim said, you'll never notice it. I said, please, Jim. I literally went on my knees. Please take it out. Please take it out. They'll never notice it. And he was right. Nobody's ever seen it. Every time I point it out, they go, yeah, I see it now.
It wasn't in this version, though.
No.
But
I don't think so.
Does it look like something? Does it just look like something floating by, I guess, in the water?
Yeah, I mean, he was lightning fast. It just get the drops off. If you notice, there's not a lot of drops on lenses here in the show.
No, it was which is amazing.
But there's one shot that really hurt. That's the shot where Ed goes in the water and we're looking up and he sees the whole family out there as he go down.
Yeah.
I did that by having the Arri, looking up, and Jim says, you can't breathe because we can't take the bubbles out. And that's
right.
Suit. No bubbles comes out of that suit because that was the whole idea. You breathe the liquid.
Well, and you're also not supposed to hold your breath when you submerge, though. Like,
exactly.
You go too far. That's
but I held my breath down to 35 feet. It was like 2 power drills in both sides of my head. Just as I get to the bottom, I just dropped the camera and I went straight back up again, which you can do when you haven't taken a breath. Then you don't have to worry about decompressing.
Right.
So that was brutal. I told Jim, that was it.
Yeah, you get one take of that. Yeah, one take of that. There it is in the movie. That's awesome. Was that then, like that set, would that have been like a dry land set with just a water, like next to a pool? Or?
That was actually shot in what's the moon pool, which is the set that was built in that reactor.
Oh, that was also in the reactor?
Yeah, that was in there too, yeah.
The big one or one of the smaller ones?
That was actually part of the big one also.
So that thing, again, if you've watched the making of, they literally, most of it was filmed in a decommissioned nuclear reactor. I guess not decommissioned, it was just never finished.
It was
just a giant thing, and I can't remember how many hundreds of thousands of cubic meters of water in there, like the largest tank ever created.
I think it took 3 or 4 weeks to fill it.
Yeah.
And that was even from the river, and then they had to filter the water also.
Yeah, well, they had to build their entire filtration system.
Huge filtration system, and the problem was, the good thing was you never get complete clarity, but whenever we wanted to do a really wide shot, we had to come in Monday morning after Sunday, because of course we work Saturday. But Monday morning, we tiptoed in, took our flippers off, so there was none of that, and then we carefully set up, and then we shot. Because the minute people started moving around, it was over. Then all the debris and the particles come up
from the bottom.
And another problem, once we shot the models of the battle between the two submersibles,
right?
They were about they big.
Yeah.
And we shot them in a pool down at USC in Los Angeles. And we put the milk in the water because we had to match, because there was much shorter distance between the object and us. It was super clear, which we couldn't use because it should match to the
to your particulate deep water.
Yeah, so of course one day we came back after a weekend, that was good, and we put milk in there. So they started putting milk in, and I'm down in the water looking out, I said, this better stop, because the milk had gone sour over the weekend, and it was like there was snow. And so we lost another first AD.
He got the blame for that one?
Oh, yeah. We lost the first one, New Donald, we lost him on day one.
Wow.
Of the shoot. That was actually when they're drowning. That whole sub was like a tube that we were lowering in the water because we figured out that the safest thing to do this is actually lower something and raise it up again instead of trying to fill it up and empty it
drain
again.
it again.
Have pumps do it. We actually had a huge construction crane outside, and Jim was standing there with this big yellow thing with all the buttons on, and he was going, oh, I can't. And then New Donald came over here. I'll take it and I'll do it. You don't do that with Jim Cameron. He had done 5 months of prep, Newt, and he did one day of the shoot.
And just one false step and...
Yep. Yeah, he had quite a reputation.
I didn't see that in the behind the scenes.
No, as I said, there's an official one and an unofficial one.
Wow. Okay. So, that's certainly something that struck me. I mean, like, for all the amazing visual effects in this, I mean, I'm still, and that's, I think, one of my favorite things about James Cameron, and, like, no matter how big and crazy his movies are, is that it's still real people in them.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
those two, like, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio and Ed Harris. I mean, those two people just ground this movie amazingly. And I think I would say, probably like my favorite shot, almost one, is that one where she first sees the thing, and it's just the big close-up of her.
Yeah.
Like, from the side is unbelievable, and just how everything playing there, and she's probably just looking at a big light of some kind, I guess.
Probably. She's probably looking at Jim.
Yeah. She just has him bellowing in her ear.
I had to simulate the flicker, so we had, as I think I told you earlier, we had these trays with broken mirrors in them, and whenever the monster was supposed to, or whatever the tentacle would appear, we revealed. I worked with Dennis Muren from ILM. That was the first time he really had done computer graphics. I had no idea what he was going to do, but we did that dummy where we could walk it, so we got the timing right, and then we revealed those flickering lights at the same time.
Right, that was for the tentacle coming through the ship.
Yeah, and in their eyes and
all the interactive lighting.
There's a lot fewer visual effects in the show that people, modern day blue screens, but there's a lot of models and miniatures in there. But Jim, it was such an amazing experience because he's a genius, that guy. I think his biggest problem is that he doesn't understand that you don't understand how clear he sees it, the problem. So he would get impatient with everybody and say, but you just do this. And people say, why? And
he's probably one of those people that knows everybody's job, too.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, not everything. He doesn't know that much about lighting, I found out.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good.
That was very good.
Well, thank God. And you got him in the days when it was I have to trust, like, at the end of the take, he has to turn to you and say, so, Mikael, how was it?
That's right.
And you have to say yay or nay, whereas nowadays, they're all sitting back by the monitor, and they've probably seen it, and they've seen it better than you have on your little, that's crappy exactly viewfinder.
Right. I mean, I love digital, I have to say. When even here at 70, you can see how much movement there is, and obviously it's a blow-up. But it was never an option. I told you that Jim wanted to shoot anamorphic underwater.
Yes.
And I said, that's just not possible. The film we had was 100 ASA. There were no underwater lights at the time available. And shooting at a 4-stop underwater, because that was wide open on an anamorphic lens, it would have killed us because we would have gotten no resolution at all. So I said to him, we got to shoot spherical, but I want to shoot 240. I said, let's do Super 35. What's that? So that's how we introduced it. And Claremont built the cameras to the specifications. I had done one show before in Super 35, and they built the 3-perf pull down instead of 4.
Yeah.
And that also saved us 25% of film, so we could be underwater longer.
Yes.
So that was, all in all, worked out really well. He's been shooting Super 35 ever since, I think.
Yeah, although I'm sure nowadays he's shooting
A65.
65, well, 65
sure.
in digital or something.
Yeah,
the biggest, best,
I would if I was him.
Yes, yeah.
No, digital is great. I love digital.
There's plans? I heard are they going to do sort of a digital copy of this in the sense of like rescan it all and?
Well, he claims that he already has a Blu-ray master ready, but he's claimed that for a year or 2 or 3 or something like that. We never get that Blu-ray. And I know there's a lot of people who's asking about it, including myself.
Yeah, nice.
But I don't know. It would be fun. I saw the master actually. Mm-hmm. And that was interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, you see stuff never seen before.
Well, yeah, and then they can probably clean it all up now too, and anything that you saw as far as shake, they can stabilize all that stuff. That they can
all
do
that
now,
plus you see detail you've never seen before, which is amazing.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I should let everybody know. I think we have set up in here a couple of microphones. I think there's one on either side of the main floor here, and I think there's one up on the balcony. I don't know how many people are up there on the balcony, but if anybody has a question, you can sort of make your way over to one of the microphones, and then I think that's the way I was told they want to run this so that everybody can hear. While he's making his way over there. I mean, I guess what would you like to do differently if you could have done it today, as far as digital LED lights?
You mean here?
Yeah, if you had to.
How much time do you have? No, I mean.
Well, maybe your top 3.
Oh, just cables. Just being able to have cables in the shot and remove them later on, or remove bubbles or add bubbles.
Right.
Some of the stuff where we shoot him cutting the wire at the end,
yes.
we had to add air in front of the lens it was too clear. We were too close, it was too clear. People said, is that shot in the water? And that was just one of the things we had to think about all the time. But a lot of things were made up on the spot. As I just told Jeremy, that the effect where the bubble, that thick inch, the plexi bubble cracks.
Right, when
Michael Bihn's character
dying and
copies,
falling down, yeah.
That's just 50-50 mirror in front of the lens, and a silver foil on a flag out here, and a light on it, and then I held the flag in front of it, and I just pulled it like this, so it went in the reflection that people think it breaks.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not a visual effect.
I love those kind of stories, like the idea of thinking fast on a set. Or I mean, how did you come up with an idea like that? Was it trial and error?
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of that were. How are we gonna do that? I have no idea. What if we put a tray here and it's clear at the bottom, and then we put water in and we project that? All the stuff at the end is projected with a 35mm projector through a tray of water, up into a mirror, and then onto a screen behind where he sees the things again.
Right, on the wall of water in there?
That's a projection that's done in camera at
so
that time.
that was live at the time?
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays that would be totally green screen and just, I
know.
Although at the same time, how amazing is that for Ed Harris that he gets to turn around and look and actually see it there?
Exactly.
I mean, there's something so nice. So for a performer, there's that. I mean,
the shot where the water retracts also,
right,
and he comes out of the water.
Yes,
it's just a camera on the side, and then like this. But the thing you'll see if you look really closely, there's no dripping down that way. There's a close up where we did it, where you see the drops.
Yes,
but the wide shot, they actually drip down this way because of gravity, obviously.
Of course, or the aliens.
Yeah.
Sorry, over here. So let's. Have a question. Let's open it up a little bit.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Fred. I want to thank you for this. When I saw it in 1989 in the theaters in France, I was in awe. And seeing it today in 70mm here, I'm still in awe. So bravo and thank you. And now I have 2 questions. It says everywhere that the film was shot in Super 35, but when I look at the pictures behind you, I see a lot of horizontal mags. which makes me think that some of it was shot in VistaVision.
Only some of the visual effects were shot in VistaVision. Let me think. There's a shot where the shot from inside when they see the crane come down, for instance, that's shot in 65 millimeter, because we wanted good resolution that we were looking out the window. And then there's a Vista projector. We had 2 Vista projectors also, and obviously the company was Hansard. I don't know if you work. They were the people who did all the rear projection in Hollywood at the time, and they're now, of course, sadly, obsolete because we don't need it anymore. But they were experts in doing that. So they brought 2 Vista projectors down there. So we combined that with models and Vista, but no film was transferred directly from the Vista to this. It was always shot again, reshot, if you will, with the 35, Super 35.
Okay, and the other question is same thing. In the pictures behind you, I see some shots on a beach. Of people running on a beach and stuff like that we didn't see in the movie. So
that's another horror. No, I'm just kidding. It actually, there's a version of the movie that's 20 minutes longer than I personally, and most people had seen it like a lot better than this one, because the ending to me is very abrupt. But the story is that Jim, not being an 800-pound gorilla at the time, only had final cut of the movie if he kept it under 2 hours. So he had to take the whole 20 minutes of film out. He hadn't cut the long version because he knew in order to keep his final cut, he had to keep it under 2 hours. So there's several things that's out, but they are in the extended version. It's not called a director's cut because this is the director's cut, supposedly, because it's under the 2 hours. And then the extended version, they gave that to him later on when he became Jim Cameron Titanic. I think it's 28 minutes longer.
See these shots here, right now.
Yeah, that's shooting those shots was like being on vacation compared to what we've done before.
Sure.
Oh, Malibu Beach, Santa Monica.
Nice.
No, what that is, Island put a huge tidal wave in that goes to crest, and everybody's gonna die, and then it stops. And that was to justify that they can control water, the aliens control water. And that's a whole sequence that makes that a lot more plausible. There's one shot there, I can't take credit for it, but what I call it the inverted ashtray, when that thing comes out of the water. Can't we do it again? No, Jim said, no, we can't do it again. We have to release this movie now. They were supposed to release it in, I think it was May or June, and I think it got released in September or something, way after the schools were in again. So that was a couple of things that was rushed.
So that would have been a second unit thing at the tail end, or when?
Well, it was shot concurrently, and it was done. We ended up shooting 3 months down in San Pedro, south of Los Angeles. After we went all the way up to Christmas in Gaffney, South Carolina, where we did the main stuff, and then we still had 3 months left, which was not but the Fox said, you got to get out of there. So we made a small stage in San Pedro, did a lot of that kind of stuff. One interesting thing we did was actually we built a set that looked almost like a 40-foot or 20-foot container, but one end was glass, and outside that we put a rear projection screen, and then we projected the fall going down, and Ed is inside the container that's full of water, and we had fire hoses blasting at him, and he was in ski boots holding him down, and that's how we got that effect when he falls down. That's actually a projection behind him.
Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the one again in the making of about dragging him horizontally across a sort of a rock face.
Yeah, we did a lot of versions. There's some with stunt guys, but most with him. But once he was in that suit, the white suit at the end, we could use stunts a lot because he took a beating. Everybody took a beating. So.
He's unbelievable. I mean, I'm again watching the stories of him. I mean, firstly, almost drowning. The time he had to do the free dive.
Yeah,
was,
I don't think he ever was close to drowning. I think it was incredibly uncomfortable. He had a diver under him and a diver above him, right out of my frame.
Right.
And it was horrible. Obviously, it was horrible. But he did it, and afterwards. He's the kind of guy that reacts afterwards and throws a chair through a window or something like that, you know. Yeah. But for the crew, it was brutal. We'd be sitting up for 8-10 hours, then the actors would jump in, and then they would be in for a couple hours, and nobody in the crew ever complained. Let me put it that way.
Yes, yeah, but it's. I think there's a different stress level. I think always for actors.
You know what?
What they're trying to do.
I would not have changed with them at all, because some were sitting in their hotel in month after month, and maybe did one shot, must have gone crazy. They emptied the local video store in a week, and then that was over. And they did a remarkable job. Elizabeth also, they were, and I think it was definitely a family. And once we were done, Galen Hurt, who was the producer, he gave all the survivors, and there weren't that many, that had done the whole show. We got a little pin say "Survivor the Abyss."
Yes, you still have your little pin?
I still have it. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
I still have it.
Very cool. Are there any more questions floating around out there? I'm not sure how much. I'm not even sure how much time we have, but. I can't. Who is the person who's wandering over there to the mic?
Hey.
Hi.
I don't know. I want to know if you know how they did that rat drowning in the breathing fluid. You know, because that rat really looked like he was breathing that water. I mean, that was amazing. Do you know anything about that?
I do. I know a little bit about that. It's true. It did breathe that liquid. It was the Navy had come up with this thing and had been experimenting with it. And Jim, of course, was at the cutting edge of everything. He found out, and it had never been, I don't know what the status is today, but obviously you have to breathe liquid because you can't have any cavities when you're on that kind of pressure. So that was the whole principle behind it. But we shot that rat being put in the water in the liquid. It was a liquid that was oxygenated. And it stayed in there for a pretty long time. We kept rolling. Obviously, we would have loved to show it in real time because we never cut. It got out of the water again and survived and lived happy ever after.
No,
At least another 6 months.
How many rats did you go through? Come on.
Just that one. Can't you see? It's a very specific rat. We could never have replaced that.
Yes. No, I think, again, this is, you can see this in the making of video if you've watched that, and it apparently was real, although sadly, it did die before the film was released in totally unrelated causes.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to know that.
Well, because I heard they wanted him on like a talk show, like, I don't know, Johnny Carson or somebody wanted him to come out.
I think they took him out. No, that was the Navy had done it, but afterwards we heard they'd only done it on one lung of a volunteer apparently, and he survived. But I don't know where it's probably much further. This is 30 years ago, which is something I have a very hard time wrapping my head around. I have to say, it doesn't feel that way.
Yes. Yeah, well, because I was thinking about it, and it's probably like, yeah, sure, your lungs would be fine, but I think there's still a few other cavities that it might not fill up that would probably be problematic when you got to 2 miles.
There's probably one big cavity right here.
Yes, well, exactly. I think there's some space in there, or at least some people.
But people ask me, what about Ed? What did he do when he gets in there? That's just water. That's we colored the plexi shield, eye shield, to the same pink color. So once he gets filled in with regular water, and he just makes it look as if he's breathing. So he only would last a minute or two in the suits, and then we had to empty the water out, give him a time, fill it up again.
Well, I was going to say, how long could he hold his breath?
About an hour, a minute, or not an hour.
An hour? That's
not an hour. That would
impressive.
Be the divers down. I've never seen anything like it. Professional divers that we had with us that didn't know anything about lighting or grip, but they were amazing. They could hold their breath forever underwater because they don't expend any energy. They're completely relaxed, breathe very slowly. And eventually, we all started to do that. But I think for safety reasons, it was the right decision. But we had to have class every day. So this is a reflector, and here's this light. And when the actor comes closer, then close it a little bit so he doesn't get as much light. Oh, okay. So there was school every day. We lit everything in theory up top, and then we say, okay, let's go in the water. And then we took everything down underwater because rather than trying to explain it while you're in the water.
How much would it change with refraction and everything from up above to down below? Or you just got used to that, I guess, after a while, but...
No, we never got used to anything. Really, I mean, honestly, it was, every day was a new day, and you had to pretty much invent it over again. There was a lot of interesting things. I mean, we learned to carry a flashlight after the generator went out, and we were in rooms with a ceiling full of water, so you couldn't even surface. So we just had to sit there and go, be fun if we get light again, so we could find our way out. Yeah. So after that, we all had a flashlight.
You had the little, I don't know what those chemical little sticks are that he uses there. Did that actually give off enough light to shoot from, or you had to?
No, we had to help it. I mean, 100 ASA, you know.
Yeah.
Today, it would have overexposed.
Today, yeah, exactly.
But no, everything had to be followed up with, and that was obviously, all the flicker light from the aliens, all that stuff had to be recreated.
So did you have a good idea of what the aliens were going to look like before, like, because obviously there's interactive lighting for those as well, like the purpley.
No, we knew what the color would be. We didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, but the set that he falls onto at the end, that was made after those sketches, so it would match backwards to what they ended up looking like. But also, I should say when she first time she sees the aliens out there, and she reaches up for it. There's a wide shot. In those days, you couldn't just shoot a garbage mat. We had to get lights in from half the country to do the blue screen. And the blue screen had to be within a quarter of a stop all the way around. It was a huge surface.
Wow.
Yeah, and today you go, what? You know, you barely put a piece of green rack behind them, and you don't even have to light it anymore. But that was big deal to do a shot like that. And when she touches it, she couldn't touch the blue screen. It was too far away, so we put a mirror up. So she's actually touching a mirror that reflects the blue screen in it. So that's when she touches the alien.
Right. Wow.
She's touching a mirror.
That's awesome. So that's one of the few actual, VFX shots like that with actors in it.
Yeah, there's several more, but
probably mostly involving the aliens or the creatures.
Yeah. Also, there's some where there's models in one part of the shot and live action in the other. When they're on the submarine, for instance, there's some wide shots of the sub where they're working on one side. That piece is shot as a separate element, and then the rest is a model, and then it's combined. Some of the wide shots of the submarine when Kimberly she sails around it in her submersible, there's a little projector inside the model that goes frame by frame as they shot. That's one of the few things that shot dry for wet.
Yeah, actually, I think I've seen a couple of clips of that. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was Hoyt, the Eightland, that did that.
But it's amazing, like again, how well that matches. Like, are there other layers to those shots that they added in afterwards, or it's just smoke-filled room? With
it's a smoke-filled room, but they had a measuring laser device so that the smoke would always be more or less the same, because from day to day you can't remember what it looks like, so you have to have some kind of benchmark,
right?
So it doesn't switch from setup to setup.
Sure. Yeah, and as I say, I'm still amazed because, of course, the whole idea back to to do all this on film underwater, because we're so used to nowadays getting to just see a screen and see what I see is what I get, but that it's all filtered through your eyes and your light meter, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of things we wanted to do motion control, so we actually took a whole crane and greased it up and dropped it in the water and did a motion control shot with a crane underwater. That was the only way I can't even remember what shot it was, but I still remember the greasy crane going down in the water.
That's amazing. Like, I wonder if that crane survived. Like, they probably
don't know.
They had to take it back out again. Did we get anybody else at a microphone there who wanted to ask a question? How often you're going to get a chance? More behind-the-scenes scuttlebutt?
I think we're coming to the bittersweet end, I think. If there's no more questions, I just want to thank Arthur. Thank you very much for those intuitive questions. Mikael, thank you for your passion, your memory, your experience, the intel.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was a real pleasure being here. It's been an honor to meet you guys.
Thank you. On that note, I want to thank everybody. Drive home safe, and a big shout out to all our sponsors. Again, this was a break-even venture. The sponsors did it. The CSC was behind it. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Susan. Jeremy, for putting the idea in our heads. And when you want something done, give it to someone that's busy. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you.